Hello everyone, Sports Focus. It's transfer deadline day, which normally means it's Nottingham Forest day, but it's all changed this year by the look of it as we discuss what looks like being a relatively quiet one. There have been some interesting deals done though, and we'll discuss those, plus other possible transfers, and have our review of the Brighton game in the company of, first of all, Pete Blackburn. Good evening, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I like these late ones. It was enjoyable last time. Get a glass of wine on it. All feels a bit like Hollyoaks after dark or something like that. So I'm excited to see what sort of naughtiness we get up to on the extracurricular Forest Focus.
Jesus, you said hot action on the last one. Now you're talking about getting up to naughtiness.
That's fine. It's all right.
Okay. Michael Temple, how are you?
Questioning what I've signed up for. There were a few risque storylines in Hollyoaks After Dark that I didn't much care for. But more importantly, West Ham are all over Chelsea here. There's a good chance to go 2-0 there. And that's really, really helpful for our prospects, as we all know.
What a mad weekend. We'll get into all that. We'll do the transfer stuff, as I say. We've got a revolving cast. Lewis is running late, Lewis McGugan, but he will join us hopefully in about half an hour. Temps is tapping out in half an hour when Chris Aylmer will join us. And then at 10, Greg and Mark will join us. So it's all a revolving door, but it'll be good. It'll be good. I promise we'll keep tabs on the Chelsea game and everything else. But we'll start with what we know transfer-wise. So James Ward-Prowse has gone back to West Ham this morning. Lewis O'Brien's gone to Swansea. Emmanuel Dennis looks like he's going to Blackburn. That's not official. Tyler Bindon has signed from Reading and gone back on loan there. And we'll discuss that. And also Lewis Carroll. I'm sure Pete's clever enough to make a joke about Alice in Wonderland. There.
Well, already did in the WhatsApp group and you didn't even notice it.
It's more about the WhatsApp group than you, don't worry. He looks like he might sign. He's a 16-year-old defender from Aberdeen, and we've been linked with other young talents. Nothing on the major incomings front. So that's probably a big talking point, I guess. Temps, how do you feel about what we've seen so far and probably the lack of the major incoming? It could change, but just as we sit here right now, how are you feeling about it all?
Not what I expected. I thought we'd move for a striker at least. I thought there'd be some kind of blindside deal, as always have been. But I think it's a reflection of where we're at. It got me thinking about that kind of senior players group and that interaction with the manager, the owner, the football department, and just their feeling that bringing someone in at this point to improve the side, maybe earning 30, 40 grand a week more than the fellas that have got us to third in the league, wouldn't go down too well, could destabilise things. And it's been a window in which we've been able to keep all our prize assets, extend the contracts of some key players. And the word that I would put to it is considered. It's been our most considered transfer window yet. And yet we've done almost nothing. We're sniffing around some young prospects who will come good in 3-4 years' time, I'm sure. But that's just a mark of where we're at. We're not trying to address any concerns. We're trying to keep a core of 16, 17, 18 players happy, focused, and on task. And results like West Ham beating Chelsea, touch wood if that comes off. Results like those that happened to Man City and Newcastle at the weekend demonstrate what this side can do. Glad we've kept together. Glad there's no panic buys. Glad we've got Emmanuel Dennis out of there. And yeah, plaudits to the football department again. They've done what they need to do in that situation. That's keep a bunch of players happy and focused. Very considered.
725 people with us in 4 minutes, which is fantastic. I thought there wouldn't be that many, if I'm honest, because it might be a quiet one, as I say. But yeah, great to have you with us, dipping into the chat. Pete, you've plugged this article relentlessly. Do you want to give it a little mention here? I'll post a link somewhere.
That's outrageous slander. Well, if anyone does want to have a read, I've written a little piece about the season so far and intertwined with my personal life and stuff. So if that doesn't put you off, then it's on my Twitter at Peter M. Blackburn. Thanks.
Lovely. And
thank you to everyone who's read it. It's been some really nice interactions, and that's always the thing I like most about doing these bits and bobs, because people come and tell you their stories, and I think that's what's great about football and Forest, right?
Yeah, massively. Danscape, hold that thought. Disappointed you don't have Fothers or someone reporting live from the ground. I'm in negotiations with Fothers. He's driving a hard bargain of whether he can be bothered to go out or not. But we'll see if he joins us at some point.
I'm going to keep an interested eye on his expenses form tomorrow, see if he's got an extra 3 miles in to entertain you at the City ground.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, good to see a few transfer thoughts as well. People floating names in. Feel free to float names in. Things like Mateta, I can't see happening. I just can't see any mad big deal happening. We really tried for Mateta by the sound of it.
Shout from Derek.
What?
The Darren Pratley shout from Derek.
That's why is another one. Tuber Akpom, stars of more recent Windows past than the ghosts of that. But yeah, Darren Pratley. Who was the other ones that we were always linked to? There was a few, obviously. Pete, how are you feeling about it all in general as we we'll head into specifics next, but just as we sit here now?
I think Temps has absolutely nailed it, to be honest. I mean, I've spent years banging on about Forest having a slightly more considered recruitment strategy where we're very analytical about what we've got. We try and cultivate the best of what we've got, develop players, add quality where we can, and don't go for quantity over quality. And considered is exactly what we're seeing right now. And for me, this is it's dreamland stuff for me, to be honest. And that sounds sort of tragic because I know a lot of people are desperate to see signings all the time, and I get that. And we're all excited when we get to see a new player and get to experience them for the first time in the Garibaldi Red and all that sort of stuff. But for me, this is just a sign of how far we've come as a football club. This is not a football club that needs to make 17 signings in a January or a summer because we've got a panic about whether we can stay in the division that we're in or whether we can continue sort of the assault that we're launching towards the end of the season. This is a football club that's confident about where we are, that has strong processes in place, much better systems and much better personnel than we've had for a long time. And considered is the right word for it, isn't it? I think the basic rule just has to be, if our environment is working so well and our team unit is working so well, you add to that only if you're incredibly confident that you're bringing in quality that can improve and a person that is not going to cause any detriment to that, right? And if they can't do that for the sort of money that we've got available, then I really don't think they should. And I'm personally just really pleased to see the way things are playing out. I think Temps is right, and what I've just mentioned about being considered, I think the way the club has progressed is a part of the story. I also think we're sort of seeing the impacts of PSR and the way that football finance is being regulated currently. It is just a market that there's not an awful lot happening out there right now. And I think it's really difficult because, you want to take somebody from a rival like Brentford or whatever. It's really hard. We have to be in our limits. We think they're probably relatively tight. It's a difficult time to be doing transfer business, and I'd much rather Forest make sure they get it right, and I think that's what they're doing at the moment. So long may it continue, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you very much, Ralph. That is a big money deal. Very kind of you to give 20 quid. Appreciate that message as well. So thanks very much for that. Very good of you dipping in to the chat as well. There were a couple of interesting ones that I saw. There's loads of comments, lots of people that say. Evan Ferguson, as Matt mentions, has gone to West Ham. Santiago Jimenez has gone to AC Milan as well. And Simon F says here, Temps is right. It feels like a birthday without any real presents. Let me play devil's advocate, Temps, and I'll ask Lewis the same question when he logs on. Chris Wood gets injured. We've got Taiwo. Taiwo gets injured. We've only got Chris Wood. Are we rolling the dice a little bit here by not getting someone in to have cover like we had with Rodrigo Ribeiro last year?
That's the risk, isn't it? That position, so important. Chris Wood is in the form of his life. He's propelling our team to new heights. And whilst Tyler did look sharper against Brighton in his cameo on Saturday, he hasn't been able to consistently find that level. So that's the business that I thought we'd do. And yeah, I would be a little bit happy if we had done it. And I think there's a soundbite from me in the corner, considering Omar Mamouche is a bit of an afterthought and a badly researched alternative to our primary targets. And now 6 months on, he's worth twice as much as we thought he was. So I dare say some of those options have been looked at and considered. But I just repeat my earlier point. You've got the wagons rolling. It seems pretty difficult to turn it around. No one bar Bournemouth has managed to do so. And while it is a relatively high-risk strategy to run with two strikers who've had injury problems at various points in their career, is it more of a risk to destabilise that and bring someone in who's genuinely competing for time, is given the minutes, and just interferes with the chemistry of this side? Because while we've all named 6 or 7 lads that are having the season of their life, I think this Forest side is better than some of its parts, and the spirit is part of that, and the togetherness is part of that, and the journey they've been on from clinging on to survive for a couple of years to now being genuine contenders for a European spot could be destabilised with a bad egg. And I think external commentators and Forest fans at times have called for exactly this type of window, as Pete said. And I think it shows that the ownership aren't as trigger happy as people thought. They play the situation. This situation doesn't require us to spin the roulette wheel on 6 players, 3 of which we have to Google to find out where they've been and what they do. So I'm happy with that. I think that these decisions are in good hands, as has been consistently proven. I think there probably has been some more fending off of interest in our players than we perhaps will ever truly realise in this window, because they're being looked at, they're performing consistently, and all things considered, I'm delighted that Morgan Gibbs-White, Murillo, Milenkovic, Chris White, Elliot Anderson, Chris Wood are going to end this season in this Forest side.
Can I just query the framing of the question as well, Matt? Because you can't, the way you put it about what if Wood gets injured, what if Tyler gets injured. I mean, we can do that in every position in the squad, can't we? We've seen what happens when Hudson-Odoi gets injured, and suddenly we're all having a chat about how we fill that hole or whatever. And I mean, Nuno's come up with a total system change that has done wonders for us, but we can't do that in every position. No, I mean, pretty much no team in the Premier League can, and we certainly can't. So that's one thing I would say about it. The second thing is, I just don't think Nuno wants that sort of squad. I think everything we know about him suggests that he wants the squad to be as tight as possible. It's obviously really hard to do what he's done to create this atmosphere that is just everybody pulling in the same direction. This real perfect balance between players who aren't getting in the team but still are desperate to come in and make an impact. I mean, that is, I think that is taken for granted at our absolute peril. We've so rarely had that as a football club, and I'm sure most football clubs would feel the same about it. You get that right, and you want to hang on to that as much as possible. The other part of it is you mentioned Ribeiro. I mean, are you happier with a Ribeiro as your third choice striker, or with a Elanga or a Jota Silva or Gibbs-White playing there? I mean, I know where I am. I wouldn't be looking for another deal like that.
Yeah, Jota Silva's the third striker, as Greg says. And yeah, I saw a tweet from Danny Taylor of The Athletic saying Nuno was relaxed. Nuno was relaxed in the summer with these 2 as our strikers as well. So I don't think he's going to feel particularly differently. I think, as fans, we're the ones that worry. If the manager's happy, then we should be happy, I think. Thank you very much, Tim Pearson, for signing up for membership. And we'll revisit that towards the end of the show, like I say. Let's talk about James Ward-Prowse before we do. 900 people with us, which is nuts, 13 minutes in. James Ward-Prowse has gone back, a mutual agreement between the club's temps. I think he played 9 games for us or something. I should have checked that out. I thought it was an okay signing. I know it didn't work out, but I don't hold it against anyone. What's your thoughts?
Who'd have foresaw a season in which Forest send back James Ward-Prowse from his loan because he's surplus to requirements? And with Danilo and Sangare back, he's further down the pecking order than he ever needed to be. And the last thing he needed was to be trapped in Dubai for a week on a training camp, wanting away, knowing that his route back into the starting 11 was getting even further away. So good business at both ends. When we got him in, we celebrated, didn't we? We'd lauded his set-piece delivery and all the things that he can do. I think he suffered from his decision-making against Chelsea. I think that incident has cost him. That was his opportunity to get a bit of rhythm, get in the side, make himself indispensable. He's proved to be completely dispensable because Morgan Gibbs-White's been so much more consistent in the last 8, 9, 10 weeks. Elliot Anderson's twice the player that I and others expected him to be. And Yates, Dominguez, Danilo, Sangare are players that we own and will look to play and develop more than any loanee. So I saw the logic of signing him. I can't deny that. I can't say that I saw this coming. But at this moment in time, there's not a place for him. Rumoured to earn low 6 figures per week. It's not money that we need to spend. There's no route back into this squad. And as a side point, the manner in which Anthony Elanga strikes a dead ball has pretty much made James Ward-Prowse redundant.
Lewis McGugan, good evening. How are you?
Hello.
Hi guys, you okay?
Yeah,
Hi,
good.
Lee.
How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good. Well, we were just talking about, we'll come back to Ward-Prowse because I'll revisit the same question. We're talking about the big picture, not getting anyone in as a major signing. These lads are pretty content with it, having all things considered. You really wanted someone in. How are you feeling about it, Lewis, now? If we don't sign, a big name for in the next 2 hours, are you worried, or do you see the logic of going with what we've got?
I think there's both sides to it. I think, again, we look at it, and would we as a fan base probably over the last 3 to 4 weeks, we was probably all thinking that we need to get people in. But the biggest thing about football, results change people's mindsets. They change the kind of need of something, and the result that we had at the weekend, maybe it kind of takes that panic of it. If you look at the Bournemouth game, probably going into a game against Brighton, if we didn't quite get the result or the performance we did, would the club have that kind of outlook on it where it's got less panic, and maybe if there's something there to do, we might do it, but we're not in that bit of a rush. Another perfect example, if you look at Arsenal, everyone from the start of the season, they've completely kicked off week after week after week about no strikers. You look at their game yesterday and the chances that Havertz had, and the one where he gave to Odegaard, and then the one that he missed. If they go and lose that game, today is an absolute uproar. They're under so much pressure. But again, they go and win the game, and it changes now. Okay, they still want the striker, but if they don't get the striker in, are the fan base going to be as kind of onto the club as they would have before yesterday's result? No. And there's sometimes the difference of it. I think results can have a massive difference when they're so close to kind of that end of the transfer window.
Thank you very much to WT Analysis for you signing up for membership. I've got a slide of yours coming up on.
Should be you paying them, shouldn't it?
I know it should be really. Right, going back to Danilo and Sangare. We'll come on to your question, Danscape. I think you're right around fitness. Just in general, Pete. Danilo's return, I thought he was very good. I don't think he was perfect. I don't think we should go overboard with how good he was, but it's a welcome boost, and it probably made the Ward-Prowse decision with Sangare coming back as well almost inevitable, I guess.
Yeah, I feel a little bit sort of naked analysing a centre mid in the presence of a genuinely good one. But I mean,
don't mess this up then. Here we go.
My sort of take on it was that, look, it was first of all, seeing his name on the team sheet was a real boost. It was really lovely to see him back. I was on the pod the evening of the Bournemouth game, first time round when he got injured, and it was a real sort of a flattening sort of experience, wasn't it? Seeing that happen at the start of a new season, and somebody that had really high hopes for and such like. So it was lovely to see him back. I think that was a real nice boost going into the game. I was a bit sort of unsure about what we were going to see. It's sort of unusual you see someone come back into the team with so little sort of drip-fed football beforehand, I suppose. But it was a nice surprise. My take on the performance is that he gave us something really useful, particularly in that structure and that setup, particularly in that he's somebody who we know can pass the ball forwards, right? So he can break lines with his passing. And it's quick as well, which I think is really, it's an incredibly powerful tool. I guess the thing I would say is that, we were playing against a team that essentially didn't have a midfield, which I don't think I've ever seen happen in a football match before. Danilo didn't have anybody anywhere near him for most of the moments that he had the ball, which is quite remarkable, really. I'm sure a lot of footballers like Lewis would have enjoyed pinging it around in that sort of situation. So it's hard to know exactly what he would have been like in the circumstances where he had 2 or 3 midfielders actually pressing him and getting around him and really putting him under pressure. But look, I think the things he did really well were the things we know he can do really well. He gets the ball forward quickly, and that's massive for us, isn't it? Because everything that we do is in the efficiency in that transition. We turn that defensive moment into attack really quickly, and we do it so well. So I think he adds an awful lot to that. We've talked before about him and Anderson in those games where we feel we can have a bit of control. There's a real partnership there. Whether we can do that in all games, I think, remains to be seen because there's no sort of natural screener in that setup. Perhaps I think that there was a couple of moments where, when he did have a little bit of pressure and bodies around him, he looked a little bit vulnerable and gave the ball away. And I think that's what we've seen from him before as well, which is probably part of the reticence to play him in that deep role here. I think you said on the podcast that he came to us as a number 6. But, when we saw those sort of YouTube videos of him doing his thing in Brazil, it was very much like in this Brighton game where he was sitting in that really deep pocket and just spraying passes around and there was no one anywhere near him. And I guess, obviously, it takes tremendous skill to be able to play those balls and such like, but it's obviously an awful lot harder to do it when you're in the thick of the battle and you're being pressed and such like. So I think he's going to have much harder games, but he's also hopefully going to get a lot fitter and he's going to get the rhythm and all that sort of stuff. So, long-winded answer, but absolutely great to have him back. I think he's got phenomenal skills and he adds stuff to this team that I think are probably unique skills in the side, although you get some of it from Anderson, I guess. So he's a great weapon in our arsenal. But as I say, I think he's going to find it much more difficult in games where there's a real opposition in that midfield area, and that'll be when the test comes. But he's got time to settle into things. We've got a cup game, maybe he plays minutes there as well. And it's just great to have another weapon back in the side, isn't it? And someone that we know can have a real influence for us.
I'll come back to Lewis shortly.
Lewis slagging my analysis off.
Before we go back to Lewis to slag off Pete's analysis, Temps has got to go in 5 minutes, so I'll throw another one Temps' way. Just on the midfield, Danilo, I guess what he offers is what Pete said, that quick forward ball that set up the first goal. Whatever else happened in that game, that was pivotal. And we love Dominguez and Yates, but probably he offers something different that gives Nuno, at the very least, another very good option, Temps.
Dynamic player, and what he did for Morgan Gibbs-White for that first goal in 2 touches, most players would have taken 3. At my level, we would have taken 6. It's that, isn't it? It's the speed of thought and the speed of execution, and that's the difference between having space and not at the highest level. So if you're going to have less players in midfield, as we will in a 5-3-2 or a 5-4-1. They need to do more. You can't just have a player that's there to just stop goals or just make goals or just score goals. They have to have 2 of those facets. And I think to an extent, Danilo's got all 3. Elliot Anderson's got all 3. You say that Yates and Dominguez are more defensively minded and don't quite offer the same dynamism. They'll have a role to play, but that blend of midfield in that system against a side who, as Pete said, rather than picking central midfielders, just left a massive hole, showed how he can exploit that. I thought he was really good to come in cold and play as many minutes as he did, having been on the physio bed for so long. He's got a big role to play between now and the end of the season.
Lewis, feel free to weigh in on all that, obviously, but I wanted to throw this question to you as well, because you'll have been there around injuries. I'm quite conscious that players come back for 3 or 4 games and look dynamite, and then they can get another injury or have a setback. Do we have to bear that in mind with Danilo and Sangare as well?
A lot of it comes. So when you come back from injury, anyway, you probably, it sounds crazy, you probably first 3 or 4 games just on adrenaline. A lot of the adrenaline will get you through them games, and your body will quite get through that early stage. But it's just being out there again, being in around the change rooms, being in the big games, that will get you through so many games. And then what will happen is after about 3 or 4 games, you'll hit a bit of a brick wall, and all it is just a case of that. You've had a long layoff. You've come back in. You've played a lot of football. You've probably played a little bit more than your probably body is expecting, but the adrenaline gets you through, and then you'll hit a bit of a brick wall where potentially your body will just feel a little bit off it for a few weeks, and that's the case where you might have to come out again and just work your way back up a bit. But that's sometimes, a lot of the time, how it will work and how it will feel. Is just that potentially you look at Danilo on Saturday, a lot of that second half will just be pure adrenaline getting through to them minutes. His body would be feeling it, but again, it's a great little stepping stone for him in terms of his recovery. It's brilliant that Sangare then gets a few minutes on, which will kind of do him the world of good, and he'll really feel like he's integrated back into the team now. But again, that first 3 or 4 weeks is a lot of that is adrenaline based. That's for sure.
I was just going to ask Lewis if that's okay. I haven't really got a sense sometimes of what players need when they're coming back from injury and such like. Is it a no-brainer for him to be playing minutes in the cup, or does he need to be, rested and go back into training, all that sort of stuff for Premier League? How does that work for you, as you see it?
No, it's all completely different, and each individual will have a different kind of schedule, and that will be with the manager and the medical staff and trying to, especially nowadays, they will have a certain schedule of how they expect to get them players back up to that kind of top tier condition, really. And some players might be like back kind of, it was more when I was playing, it was sometimes down to a player. You'd have some players kind of like, you know what, I just want to take my time a little bit, dip in and dip out. And some players like, I need games. I just want to play games. I'd rather just play games. And if I get to that brick wall, what I was saying about after, that's fine. But I'd rather get there as soon as possible. So sometimes it's based on the individual, based on the injury, in terms of kind of how they're coming back into it. But that would be a conversation for the manager and the medical staff which they already would have had. And then it's just a case of how do they feel after every game? Okay, that's another milestone ticked off. How does the body feel? Any kind of niggles, any setbacks? No, perfect. Right, we'll kick on again to the next kind of milestone, really.
Temps, I know you've got to go. Do you want to give us a West Ham report and tell us who's going to win that game before you go?
Even contest second half. Kudus just hit the beans, but he was offside. The Chelsea goal will be re-examined. There were 2 VAR checks. One, Cucurella is a mile offside, and they've adjudged that it hasn't come off the Chelsea head. Then a bit of a Sunday morning scramble, and they've adjudged that the striker hasn't impeded the keeper's view. So the conspiracy theorists will be wondering whether we'd have got the same rub of the green with those kinds of decisions. But yeah, one of those that could have been given, could have been ruled out. Final thought from me. I think I've said the piece I wanted to say, which I'm just delighted we had a considered window. Now, I don't think it's a disaster. We're not signing anyone. Yes, I do think this squad can maintain what's happening, particularly when those around them are not falling apart, but find themselves stuttering, is the form of Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, giving their supporters as much confidence as ours should take from beating Brighton 7-0 and being on that run that we were on before the Bournemouth game. We're genuine contenders for this. I think more strongly than ever that we'll be a top 5 side this year, and we all know what that means. So keep the faith, get behind the squad, and let's enjoy the rest of the season. And I think I'm going to join Pete and crack open a beer and toast the end of a quiet transfer window.
Very good. I had a beer during the sort of post-match stream on Saturday, and I must be getting old because after 50 minutes, I really need the loo, and we went for about 55. That's what
It's tragic.
Tragic, the word. Tragic, the word. I do know the bookies have us down to finish top 5 now, finally, as well. So that's interesting. Right, Michael Temple, thank you very much. We shall see you soon.
Cheers, fellas. See you soon.
Take care,
Bye.
pal.
See you soon. Bye. Chris Aylmer, subbing in seamlessly. How are you?
This is beautiful, isn't it? I love this.
Hello, everyone.
Are you well?
How are you? This is a proper professional situation you got going on here, Matt. Temps out, Chris in, someone else in later, I imagine. How are you doing?
Good. There's nothing professional about this at all. Don't worry. But good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. We'll get back to transfers, obviously. I do want to talk more about the Brighton game before we do. If anyone has any major rumours that they see, drop them in and we'll discuss those, obviously. Just before that, a word for the Trent Navigation. Lots of stuff coming up, including ABBA Fever in April, 20th of April from 7 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. You can see if you're on the screen now, there's a QR code. If you're just listening, search gigantic.com for tickets for ABBA Fever at the Nav. And we've got lots of other events to advertise in the next
Chelsea
few
just
days.
scored.
Oh, Chris, you look absolutely distraught.
He's turned up and he's bringing the bleakness on. Come on.
It's fine. We shouldn't fear them. But yeah,
I
just saw it there.
Talk about our favourite ABBA songs or something to cheer us up, lads.
Yeah.
We're all big fans, aren't we?
I want to talk about Fabian Hürzeler's tactics. I want to ask Lewis about it. Absolutely baffling. The only thing I could think of, Lewis, that he thought, we're going to go there and we're going to score the first goal because that's when Forest, potentially fall apart. And if we don't score the first goal, we're going to score the second goal. Because it seemed so mad to me, just playing poor Hinshelwood in midfield on his own. Any logic, any reasoning behind it, or did Brighton get exactly what they deserved for that approach?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of Brighton. I just thought there was. Yeah, I looked at them as a team. I thought, what was their idea? Okay, sometimes you get a setback. You go a goal down. You might go 2 goals down. What's your kind of plan? And I just didn't really see anything from them. I looked at times. I don't know if a lot other people in the stadium noticed at the time, but I felt like, which is a big sign for me, felt like you're getting beat like that. The manager hardly came off kind of from the dugout. He didn't really stand at the side of the pitch for large amounts of time, which sometimes tells you a lot. It was. If you look at that game from a Brighton perspective, really, I think you're more kind of scratching your head, really, in terms of where they're going. Because I think that if you look at it, probably from the last 2-3 years, they've been a football club that a lot of people have admired by the way they've gone about stuff on and off the pitch. And again, yes, they've made the change in the summer and they started really well. But I'm not. At the minute, they're not really. I don't really know where they're going next, and kind of it's a big moment for them in terms of from now to the end of the season what they're going to try and do. But I looked at Saturday and I just didn't think. Yeah, I didn't really think that I was expecting a lot more. But if you look, like you said, to put João Pedro and Ruta as kind of 2/8s. Really, which none of them are 2/8s. They're more like 10s. So I think that's a bold move away from home, especially against a team that are up there and playing like we are. And listen, you take a bit of a risk and sometimes you get punished, and that's what certainly happened.
Excellent. There's more I want to come back to on the game. We'll dip into some transfers. We'll interweave it all. Let's talk about the signing that we have made. Tyler Bindon. I will put up a graphic mentioning WT analysis and talk a little bit about him. 20-year-old central defender from Reading. He has played a ton of minutes this season. He's played 90 minutes in every game, bar one, where he came off after 78. So he's getting a lot of minutes in at a decent level for a 20-year-old. He's got 13 caps for his country. So I asked Jason Pine, the commentator I knew in New Zealand, about him, and he enthused about him. Terrific prospect. Played more senior minutes in the 2024 calendar year than any other player in the under-20s in the world, Jason says. Very composed on the ball. Reading fans love him. They know he's too good to stay there. So he's very enthused about him. Well, none of us have seen him, but I want to talk about the principles of it, Chris. We all dreamed of, and we discussed this earlier, a £30 million striker coming in. I still like this one a lot, though. What do you feel about this kind of deal, Chris?
I like it just because it's smart from the off. It looks like we're now focused on, rather than maybe upsetting the balance. Obviously, we've talked about forwards and strikers. We want someone in to back up Wood in case he gets injured. But it just looks like it's that kind of shrewd business of, look, let's try and catch lightning in a bottle before we know it's there. He's 20 years old. I had a little look at him earlier, 6'3", so quite tall. Seems to be good with his feet for a tall man as well. That's good. I think the idea is to bring him in and loan him back to Reading. I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
but
he's gone back to Reading, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it just seems like shrewd business, and we're aiming to bring in young players now and prepare them for the summer, and that's thinking ahead. And at least we're thinking ahead now. We're not just trying to plug gaps anymore. So yeah, I'm enthused by it. Another Kiwi in the ranks as well, along with Chris Wood. So yeah, look, I obviously don't know anything about the player. I don't watch League One anymore. I don't watch Championship football anymore. We're just watching Premier League these days. But I I certainly am enthused to know that the recruitment team is still thinking of the plan ahead and looking at these kind of players and going, listen, this could be one for the future. So yeah, enthused by the spot from the recruitment team.
I think as well, Pete, the thing is, you know, even if he doesn't play many or any games for us, he's going to be loaned to championship clubs and he's going to make some money for the football club. I don't know how much he cost us, but it can't be much. It's the kind of deal that we've probably been crying out for, and the club are doing it, and they might make one or two more as well today.
I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and we should be using our position as a established Premier League club with revenue streams and the position of being in that top division for hopefully, you know, in a sort of vaguely permanent sense, to bring in the sort of players who can be the next generation of talent, I guess. And as long as we've got plans for them and where they're going next and such like, then, you know, they're either a prospect for our first team in years to come, or they're hopefully profit that can be helped to use our first team in years to come. I've seen him play a couple of times, and I've also heard talk about him for a good while now. I think he sounds like a proper prospect. He looks like somebody who's quite a modern defender, really comfortable with the ball, despite being the sort of the height and all that sort of stuff. Sounds like he's got a bit of everything. I think the most encouraging thing about him is that he's sort of come from nowhere, right? So it's 2 years since he's playing in America, you know, a sort of youth prospect in America, and suddenly he's in the cut and thrust of Football League, doing really good stuff for a player of his age with such limited experience. I think we should be all over it at the price. I mean, it sounds like we're talking a minimal amounts of money here, and I guess we're probably taking advantage of a football club in a difficult situation in Reading. Just feels like an absolute no-brainer for me. You send him back there for the rest of the season, hopefully get him a really good championship loan next season to a team that play in a similar way to us, or to a team that we think can offer the sort of challenges that he needs to develop his game or whatever, and see where we go from there. I don't think there needs to be any pressure on it, and I don't think anyone should be expecting him to come into our first team squad anytime soon, but he sounds like a player of real potential, and that's exactly what we should be all over, in my opinion.
I suppose, Lewis, as well, you'll have been there. 2,000 minutes this season already. He's played a lot of football for a kid. I guess that's beneficial to be 20 years old. And I suppose the other thing is we can't get too excited and carried away and expect the world from him. But it's an encouraging deal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, that's the key, potentially why he's staying there for the rest of the season. I think that's the big thing, is that to carry on his progression. He's obviously playing a lot of football, is a key part of their team. So let's kind of look at it where we'll continue that, where he can get them games, and then it puts him into a better kind of position come kind of start of next year in pre-season. Sometimes you can make that transfer, especially in January, come to a bigger club, and he probably won't get the game time and the minutes that he has done, and which can sometimes hamper his progress. So it is age with the amount of football that he's getting. I think it's very good that, again, we've agreed the deal, and that's for the future. But for the short term, let's carry on and make sure that he's still getting football. He's still playing week in, week out, which again is gonna help all clubs involved, really. And I think that's the best way of trying to do a deal.
Staying with midfielders who've gone, Lewis O'Brien's gone to Swansea. His fourth loan spell since he joined us. He's only played 13 times for us. Do you feel a bit sorry for him, Lewis, or not? I thought he looked bright when he first started, but it's never really happened for him. Do you feel a bit unlucky for him or not?
Yeah, I think that's how sometimes football is. Football is it's sometimes you can come in and like I said, he had a really good season with Huddersfield. Got a lot of kind of plaudits, and in terms of when the transfer was made, if you looked at it and you looked at the two, you'd probably say that O'Brien was the main one, and you look at it and think Toffolo's still here. Do you know what I mean? And that's how sometimes it works, where you probably wouldn't have expected that when the moves happen. But again, a bit like Ward-Prowse now, I think sometimes you just have to kind of, everyone holds their hands up and go, do you know what, it just quite hasn't worked out the way we wanted it to. There's no kind of hard feelings. No one's done anything wrong for that. But football moves very quickly, and maybe he came in yes, I think the time that he come in, like a lot of players, Steve was still trying to find the team, find the shape, find what was going to work, and he wasn't the only one that got caught up in that cycle. And unfortunately, when that happens in a football club, kind of there will be casualties in that, and I think he was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of casualties. Ryan Yates is the only one left from promotion. It's been a very busy battlefield. But I suppose as well, Chris, it does show, we've moved on pretty rapidly as a football club over the, just the last 2 years, really. Players we've been talking about Remo Freuler endlessly, and it feels like we're in a much different place now, aren't we? Chris, yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, you cut out for a second there.
Sorry.
I imagine I missed some of that, but I imagine you were talking about us moving past where we were 2 years ago, and then it's sort of lost its way there. Yeah, we have, and I think. Look, I think it is sad in a way. Nostalgically, we like to look back at some of the players that got us to where we are. Even the first season, some of the players that were there, the Mangalas, et cetera, who helped us stay up, and some of the likes, even Taiwo was in that first season where we stayed up, and now he's sort of the backup striker that is kind of off form. I still just think that ultimately it doesn't matter if we're trying to get to that next level. We've got to move way on from where we were before, and that, like you said, is just a casualty of war. We've got to get there. Some of the beloved heroes have moved on, managers, players, but I do feel sorry for Lewis O'Brien, purely because he did come in and look bright, as you said, and he felt like he was the A side of that deal with Toffolo, and Toffolo is actually the one that's hung around and done really well. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that we're just way, way, way beyond where we were before. And I've kind of accepted it now. I've kind of let go of the nostalgia of those players who got us up. I love them. I'll always have a place in my heart for them, like most Forest fans, but we've just got to move on. We're in Champions League spots now. It's time to really, really dream and be ambitious as the owner wants us to be,
Anthony, thank you very much for signing up for membership. Congratulations on that man of the match award for Real Betis after leaving United. Very good stuff. Terrible. That was really bad.
It's cheap. Sorry. I really liked it.
Oh, it's cheap. Yeah,
it was better than your ad read after the post-match stream the other day. If people heard that, but my word, that was something.
I did hear that, and that was very funny. It was very funny.
It was good. It was good. Let's stick with midfield then. In general, I didn't really round off that conversation around how we set up now. I want to pick Lewis's brains on that. Obviously, Lewis, we've got Danilo, Sangare, Dominguez, Yates on paper for one position, but it's slightly clouded because if we keep playing 3-4-3 or whatever it was, 5-2-3-2 or whatever, that's too many players. Then with Hudson-Odoi coming back, it creates an issue. So how are you seeing that whole midfield picture now, Lewis, around who the best options are and how it shapes up in the long term now everyone's fit?
I think it's one of them where we have that kind of open mind to it, and we look at it. If we probably would have sat on here before Saturday and said of a midfield three of that, with Danilo probably being the most defensive. I don't think anyone would have picked that or looked at that as a free. But again, I think it's the options now the manager has. Again, with them two players now coming back into the squad, I think it creates them headaches. But as a manager, they're the ones that you want. Them good headaches allows you to change the team, allows you to change the personnel, but also the formation. I think if we're honest, I think Gibbs-White and Anderson are the two, and it's a case of who's the potentially who comes in for that third one how we play that. But I think that's potentially, in my eyes, how we finish now from now to the end of the season is them two are the main two, and it's a case of, in terms of opposition and tactics, how the manager sees the best kind of partner to kind of help them to get the best out of their ability, really.
What about you, Pete? Well, I think Gibbs-White's sort of in the mix as well. We'll come on to Gibbs-White. I want to ask Lewis about him, but the midfield going to probably more Fulham than Exeter. What are you kind of thinking?
Well, I think the glorious thing about it is that his options, right? Out of nowhere, we've suddenly got another one from the weekend that most of us didn't even have pegged down as a potential lineup for us. So far this season, we've seen us play the sort of fairly classic 4-2-3-1. We've seen us play a variation of that where we've used more central midfielders in the sort of wide positions to block through the middle, I guess. And we've seen the sort of the game changer formation where we bring on an extra centre half and we clog everything up. And sometimes that's meant having Anderson, Gibbs-White and deeper roles. Suddenly now we've got a totally different one, which I guess was largely developed because Hudson-Odoi wasn't available, and it felt like the best way to utilise the strengths that we did have available. But it also, it does feel like an option. What I like about it, I guess, is that it enables us to have probably our three most talented central midfielders playing, but not fearing the fact that there isn't a natural screener in there so much as we would obviously have to fear if that was a back four, right? So we've got three players in those central defensive areas, and one of them could step in a little bit if needed. They obviously went with Morata at right centre back to get the sort of the balance as nailed as they could with that. But look, I think it's all about options. There's no point worrying about having first choice central midfield partnership because it's just so rarely going to be what happens. I think we're a team that will have to always react a little bit to the opposition, largely because we're not a team that goes out and dominates possession and therefore tries to imprint ourselves on the game from the off and throughout every game. So it sort of goes without saying that the way it will play out in a lot of games is that we'll be reacting to what the opposition are doing and therefore trying to pick a weakness and trying to pick a way that we can be strong to I guess avoid their domination of the game or to keep them in the sort of areas that we're happy for them to be. That's been the sort of story of our season, hasn't it? Letting teams have the ball, but letting them have it where we want it, and then nicking it and breaking with incredible efficiency. So I think it's always going to be a bit of a balance for us. And as I say, the great thing is we've got options there. There would be too many options in the long term if they all remain fit. I don't think it's realistic to have that many central midfielders. In terms of the Fulham game, I'm not sure. I did think earlier that what would be really useful is that I think the lineup that we had and the system that we had against Brighton could potentially be really useful against Newcastle, because we saw last time they came that they really gave us problems in the middle of the park. They had so many bodies because there was three in there anyway. I think they had Joe Linton, if I remember correctly, coming off the left and sort of getting involved in the middle of the pitch. They also have in Lewis Hall a fullback who often can come into that sort of central midfield area, and I felt that we were really overrunning there. And I think having that option rather than just the two sitting and then asking Gibbs-White to come and help a lot would potentially be an option for that. And the good thing about it is what I really liked in the Brighton game was, as I saw it, and I think as Morgan Gibbs-White spoke after the game, really it was a sort of a 5-3-2 with Danilo sitting and the two next to him. But it looks different because Elanga had just total freedom to go wherever he needed to make penetration to hurt the opposition. So you saw Gibbs-White floating out wide right a little bit, and you saw Elanga floating out to the left or to the right, and he was causing problems in every area. I sort of really like that role for Elanga, having him in that sort of forward line, but just saying, look, go wherever you need to hurt the opposition. And with a team like Newcastle who play a high line, and you've got a Dan Burn or someone lining up against you, just go and put yourself on them and just cause problems. So for me, it was just great to see another option. Probably a bit of a boring answer, but I think the flexibility for us is crucial if we're going to be able to keep where we are in this league, given we're not adding new players, we're not adding talent. If we can add a bit of flexibility and keep solving problems, then I think it's a really great place to be.
I do want to come back to a few things on that. Ever the professional, my phone's about to run out of battery, so I'm going to get a charger. Lewis, would you answer this question, perhaps once and for all, because it comes up so much? Murillo playing central midfield. I'm never going to get on board with it. I have to be honest. Can you say whether you would be, or is Murillo purely a central defender for you? And then I'll be back in like a minute.
For me, no. I think he's a really, really good centre. And I think one of his kind of biggest strengths is that he comes and steps out of it. He steps out into them areas and then he goes and plays them passes. I think it's sometimes very easy with the ability that he's got. I get it, and I see why some fans look and think, why can't he play in there? But it's a completely different position. completely different positioning in terms of the times where he gets the ball and he steps out of centre half into that kind of space. He wouldn't have that space sometimes when he sits there and gets the ball as maybe a defensive midfielder. It's totally different, even though you think, okay, well, the areas that they're picking up isn't that much different. But the way the ball's coming, he starts it. If you think he sets it, and as he steps in, he can see everything. At times as a midfielder, you get it blind. At times you get it on a half turn, and you've got to then be out. So it's totally different. And I think one of his biggest strengths is that he comes and steps into it, and he uses abilities, range of passing, which is fantastic. And he's always trying to probe. But again, I think that's really beneficial from when he steps out from centre half. I think if he plays in there already and he's already sitting in there, I don't think you quite get the same output on the ball that he does when he plays centre half.
Right, well, sorry, I'll listen back to that answer.
Timing was perfect there. Brilliant, Lewis. That was perfect. It was just
Lewis was even having the odd little glance just to check whether you were ready, whether the headphones were in, and he was like, right, I need to do a little bit more. Beautiful.
It was class. That was class,
What a professional.
Lewis.
What a professional. I'll listen back to what I'm sure was an excellent answer tomorrow. More Gibbs-White. I wanted to talk to Lewis about that in a moment. Chris, who was your man of the match on Saturday, out of curiosity? Was it Gibbs-White, Elanga, or Wood, or someone else?
Do you know what? I think it's probably Elanga, but I have this. I was talking to someone earlier about this. Sells was just like, he makes huge saves early on in games that really could affect the game if they go in. He's been doing it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then the rest of the game, we go on to win it and we talk about the goal scorers and who assisted and who played really well. Sells was just class. I'd give him an honourable mention. I'd probably just about give it to Gibbs-White just because he was involved in the first two goals and that set us alight. But you could give it to either one of Gibbs-White, Elanga, or Wood. But I'd probably just about give it to Gibbs-White. 100th cap, stepped in after a poor week last week from everyone. And it was brilliant. So he'd be my man of the match. But you got to look at Sells. This season has just been unreal. And if he doesn't get save of the month, I mean, it takes some save to beat that one because he's been so unlucky the last few months with save of the month. But that one off the bar was just stunning. It seems every month he's making a really, really important save to keep us in the game. So he'll deserve a player of the match or a save of the month at some stage. But Gibbs-White for me.
A very valid answer. Elanga, I will come on to Elanga. He moved up to 4th in the assist list in the Premier League. In fact, spot quiz. Can anyone name, I think 2 of you might be able to, if you play FPL enough, who's got more assists than Elanga this season? Who's got 8? Any guesses?
I mean, if my FPL team has anything to go by, then I definitely won't have.
I should know this.
I'm useless.
More than Elanga. So in the Premier League, who's got more assists than Elanga?
Play along in the chat because that was a lot of dead air there. If there's any 4 other players who've got more, Rice is 13.
Saka's injured, but he had a lot before he got injured.
Saka and Salah. The other 2 are difficult, so I'll just give you a few seconds and then any random guesses. One's a fullback.
Give us fullback and
Trent?
No. Fulham fullback.
Robinson, of course.
Anthony Robinson's got 10, and the other one's Damsgaard, who's got 8 as well.
Damsgaard, gosh!
I think we could have spent the rest of the stream doing this, and we wouldn't have got Damsgaard.
You wouldn't have got it. Damsgaard's a good player. I really like him. I think he's a top player. To be fair, whenever I see him. So sticking with number 10s, Lewis. We talked about More Gibbs-White so much. You've always wanted that little bit more from him. I feel like we're seeing it. Do you agree? You're seeing everything you wanted now?
I think it's there. I think if you look at what he's doing again, assists. I think the assist has been there. He's now adding the goals together. His all-round performances. But the big thing for me is when I look at it, I think, okay, he was playing. He had the injury. Anderson came in. Potentially as the Anderson signing and Anderson performances as maybe made him go to that next level. And that's what happens when you're in a squad. Sometimes you are there and you get a bit of competition, someone in that place, someone thinking, right, okay, now what are you made of? Can you go to that next level? And for me, he's starting to show that next level. And we've always spoke about England. And we've always spoke about them opportunities about, right, what does he need to do to be consistently in there? I think if he continues to perform how he's doing, then it's a case of why will he not be in the England squad? And I think in that, with Anderson, I think Anderson has come in and has made a massive impact. And I think sometimes potentially that's gone a bit unnoticed. I'm a real big fan of Elliot Anderson, and I think in terms of when he's come into the football club and the impact that he's had on this team, in terms of yes, taking over a point from Gibbs-White, it's not an easy thing to do. We know how important he has been for this team, and I think the time when he was injured, he really came in and kind of took the team kind of on his back a bit. And I think at times when he came out, I thought it was quite harsh and unfortunate for him to come out of the team when he did, kind of when Gibbs-White came back and he got fit. But now the manager has worked a way to get them both in a team, and I think that just shows the levels that both of these players are playing at, where it's a case of, as I said before, on the formation, it's right who now comes in to kind of help them, but them two are the main kind of driving force in this team. And I think their age, they're English, and they look at it. I think it's an exciting time for us as a fan base to watch, and for a country to see these two players now performing at the top end of the Premier League, and hopefully they can continue to do that.
Chelsea have won, which is a shame. We'll come on to at some point. We'll talk about the weekend. It couldn't have gone much better, to be fair. Chelsea snuck a win, so be it. So be it. Greg and Mark should be joining us shortly. Just before Chris and Pete leave us, just on Elanga, Pete. There's proper wing play, wasn't it? He has frustrated at times. Stuck by him, and he's delivering massively. And all power to him, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I could be much happier for him, to be honest. I think we've taken a fair few pelters on this podcast for our sort of staunch defence of him in the early days of this season when he was struggling to make a real impact. But you don't have to go back far in his Forest career, let alone the rest of his career, to know that he's got something and that he can impact games for us, and he's a player of real potential. He's still an incredibly young man in a footballing sense, in every sense, really. And there's a lot of development still to be done. And I think sometimes we're just all a bit guilty of expecting too much too soon from players, because we see what they can do, and then instantly we imagine they should be doing that all the time, and that's just absolutely mad, isn't it? Because if Anthony Elanga was at his best all the time, he wouldn't be playing for Forest for very long. Look, I think he's such a likeable guy as well, which I think is part of it. And maybe it doesn't really matter, but for me it does. Like, I love that he speaks a million different languages. He seems like such a decent, thoughtful chap in his interviews and around the club. He's a part of that real strong core in this dressing room that seems to be making us what we are at the moment. But in a footballing sense, I just think he gives us so much. And what I think is mad about him, I mean, there's quite a few moments in the Brighton game where I sort of marvelled at what he did. The take on of Dunk to get the cross in, I thought was fantastic, because you sort of think of Elanga as a player who is going to thrive against the high line. You've got loads of space to run into, and he's just going to, set fire to his feet and he's gone. But there wasn't really that much room to play with, and I think you have to choose his moment, and he sort of commits Dunk and then just suddenly goes. And it's not a lot of grass to play with, but he just gets past his man, and it's a perfect ball. I mean, the whipped cross forward was, I thought, absolutely perfect. And that's something that we're seeing increasingly from him now, I guess, with his set pieces. But we saw it a couple of times early in the season, and I specifically remember this comments bar was full of people saying, "What are you talking about? Why defending Elanga?" But there was moments where he'd beat a man and whip a ball across it. It looked like it was coming for him. And I'm so glad that that's worked out. There's obviously a great telepathy between him and Wood right now. They know exactly where they both need to be. I mean, look, there's so many things that we could talk about as Forest fans right now, or former players, where we can just see magical things happening. Anthony Elanga and Chris Wood is another one. I thought he was phenomenal at the weekend, and if it wasn't for a career best performance from Morgan Gibbs-White, he'd be walking home with the man of the match award for me.
One bit of transfer news: a young player, Ben Perry, who's the captain of the under-20s by the look of it, has gone to Northampton on loan for the rest of the season. So good luck for him. Let's add in Greg Mitchell. We're going to have to boot one of you out. Pete's been here for an hour, and I feel like I've shortchanged.
Can I
it, so
choose?
I wasn't even going to add you in because you were rude to me earlier. Yeah, you choose who goes. Go on then.
I was going to choose you, but no, it's all right.
Okay, you want to host?
No, I'm only joking. I've not got that like in me to make those kind of decisions.
Oh, hang on. I've got a WhatsApp from Mark. Tech problems. I'm going to remove Pete Blackburn. I'm going to say goodbye to Pete Blackburn. I'm not going to remove him.
Yeah, good choice.
Pete Blackburn, thank you very much for your time.
Am I allowed any final words before I go?
No.
Hang on.
It's like being on death row. This is my
Hello, Mark
minute.
Sutherns.
Hello, you all right?
Hello. Do you want to hear Pete Blackburn's fantastic final monologue?
How long does it take?
Yeah,
it could be upwards of 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, go on then. We've got time to burn, haven't we? We've not a lot going on, so
yeah. Go on, Pete.
I was just going to say, is there nothing that Lewis McGugan can't do? In this live stream tonight, we've seen him take on the Gary Lineker role while you're fumbling around, mess all over the place. We've seen him take the net off at the City ground against Ipswich. I mean, not only those two things, but now we've seen him single-handedly motivate Morgan Gibbs-White back to full form with his brutal man management. I mean, it's just a joy to be in the presence of such greatness, and I've enjoyed tonight, lads. Cheers.
If Lewis has sparked that form, I can only thank him because yeah.
Is there anything you can't do, Lewis? Can you cook, Lewis McGugan? Quite bothered about what I'm saying, but I'm glad that he's now producing what we all wanted to see. And just on that, Pete, if you was my agent 15 years ago, it would have probably a lot different career.
We can still do it, mate. There's still time. Right, cheers, chaps. I'll see you later. Have a good one.
Cheers, Pete. Thanks very much. Chris Aylmer, I'm going to have to let you go now. Sorry, but thank you for joining us.
I was looking forward to having a chat with Chris.
You all right, Chris?
I know. How are you doing, Mark? How are you doing, Greg?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, no, I was just in for half an hour there. The internet's a bit scratchy, and I don't know if it's just the Irish internet or what's going on, but it's been a bit of a nightmare the whole week. Good to see you, Mark. Good to see you, Greg. But I'm going to go. Lewis, great chatting to you, and Matt as well. Can I have some final words as well?
Yeah, screw it. Why not? Yeah.
Okay. Is there nothing Greg Mitchell can't do? No, I'm joking. Just quick shout out to on our podcast we had Nottingham Forest North America, Andrew Cove, who we're trying to get on for ages, who's a big organizer for them. He's one of the people that runs it. So big shout out to him, Homer from Ohio and Richard from Oklahoma, who also does Talking Reds. Those three are going to this meetup in Ohio for Forest fans on the 26th of April. So they were on the podcast lately. I just want to give those three a massive shout out, and I'll see you all again. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Thank you very much.
He just shouted out of the podcast there.
Yeah. I know, but that's technically we do have a podcast. We have to. It weaves it. Greg, you don't need to. I just gave you a compliment, Greg, and now you're. Oh well. Take care, everyone.
See you later. Bye.
Hey, Chris.
Bye.
Yeah.
Does he know how to remove himself? Yeah, he does. Yeah. There we go. Right. I've been holding off on talking about Emmanuel Dennis for ages because I'm waiting for it to be confirmed, but I've not seen anything. So let's talk about Emmanuel Dennis. Looks like he's going to Blackburn, Mark. 6-month loan. Doesn't seem to be any option. So he's still going to be our player after this. How do you feel about it? Is it just nice to get him off the wage bill or forget about him for 6 months, or we've been a bit rude about him there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess logistically it's good to get him off the book. It's good for him as well because he's going to need football, right? So, he's going to want to play, and he's not going to get minutes in the Forest team, that's for sure. He never really fit in, did he? I think that he's a bit of a maverick player, not a player who follows systems. He's something he can pull something out of nothing. He's got talent, there's no question. It's just we've never been able to tap into that. And he's never really fitted into the system, either under Cooper or under Nuno. He has shown glimpses. The goal against Newcastle, we're very thankful for example, which helped a lot. He just never really got the opportunity for us because I don't think either manager that we've had in the time he's been at the club has really seen him fit in. But I think he goes with our best wishes, and I wouldn't be surprised in the Championship if he produces again, because at that level, we've seen how effective he could be. He just wasn't able to produce the form we saw at the Premier League level with Watford when they came up for us. Did he get a fair crack? Probably not. But like I say, it's because he didn't really fit.
Is that the thing, Greg? It's sort of a sign of how things have changed, not as much as a team, but how we sign players now. This recruitment team that we have now, I can't imagine they'd ever have signed Emmanuel Dennis, would they?
Possibly not. I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because that recruitment era did work because we stayed up and we got, we got what we needed to do for those first times. But you always hear when a player doesn't do well about attitudes and things like that. And we all seem to know for an absolute fact that he had a terrible attitude and this, that, the other. But you just don't know, do you? I did find it strange that he was always out of like the first team training and stuff. I'm not entirely sure where he's been training the last few months, and that must be tough for him. But at least he's getting some game time now and a chance to revive his career, because it's a short career, isn't it? So I think, does he come back to Forest next year for a year?
Yeah, he's got a year left, I think. Yeah.
So hopefully he plays well enough and gets that bug again to know that he could possibly go and move there or something like that, because we certainly won't have a need for him next year, no matter how well he does at Blackburn. We're way beyond Emmanuel Dennis these days. So it'd be a shame if he just came back and took his wages, but you can't blame the player for that. He got the contract, didn't he? So just hope it's a good loan and he manages to get one again next year, or a permanent move.
Is he still getting a look in for Nigeria in terms of, because they got AFCON next year? I wonder whether that's a factor. He's still getting any international recognition?
I'll have a look. Greg, do you want to answer that question? Are you in a day spa, by the way, Greg? It looks like you are.
Now?
Has he got like a scented candle on in the background?
Like and a curtain of some kind, yeah.
That's just my curtains.
Okay.
Is it because does that guy follow me on Instagram? Because I was in a spa earlier.
Of course you were. Of course you were.
That's probably what
he meant. Who was it on the podcast who had a conversation in a sauna recently? That was one of us, wasn't it?
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah, you go, see?
with the linesman.
It's always if there's a question who had the conversation, it's always Greg.
It was the day before we played Wolves, and this fourth official who was at the Arsenal game or something.
I call
it's
foul.
Too late. No one's listening now, so I could say it. But, so he's in the sauna, like chatting away to everyone, and then the next day we're at Wolves away, and I thought, that's that bloke running the line.
Corruption. Oh dear. 935 people watching, which is lovely. I will have a look about Emmanuel Dennis. I don't think he's been in the squad, but I shall have a look. Thoughts on Emmanuel Dennis, Lewis? And are we a bit too swift to judge players? I mean, I don't know. I thought he was a terrible signing, but am I being a bit critical there, do you think, or not?
That's again, it's probably another one that again, like you said, the recruitment would the football club have probably done it now? No, but again, they make these moves, and as Greg said, there's contracts there. So listen, it's not ideal for all parties really, but these situations happen. That's the other side of football. He's got a contract, and yes, okay, he wants to go and play football, but also clubs have to try and cover them wages and the longer that you're not playing football. This is a big thing. What a lot of people don't understand is that it's like anything in life. But if somebody's not playing, but what tends to happen is a lot of the time the football club want to recover their money, but the player is continuing not playing. Well, no other football club is going to do it and cover full money, because at this point in time, the value of that player is only coming down. So that's where you get kind of that bit of a crossroads and a bit of a brick wall where things don't happen. And then you see now a lot of players where they're not picked in the squads, but they still don't move and they still kind of train on their own, or they train with the kids. And it's not a nice side of football, but it's a reality of football. And that comes down to, at times, mistakes in the recruitment, changes of plans, and then it's a case of, right, okay, football club wants to kind of recoup all their money back. That's never going to happen. A player and his agent will continue to kind of stick up for their side, and you kind of have that little bit of a standoff, really. So when you look at it now, yes, okay, from now to the end of the season, at least he's getting out there, at least he's playing games. He's not now going into the training ground, training on his own or training away from the team, because it's no good for any person, no matter what someone thinks of them. You don't wish that upon anyone. And like I said, I've been in that position as well personally. It's, like I said, it's not a nice feeling. These players, like I say, the human beings, they have families, they have stuff that they go back to in terms of go back home to the family, to the kids, and the headspace that they're in sometimes is sometimes gets forgotten. But I understand it from a fan's point of view. I understand it from a football club's point of view that they just look at it and they think this player is not playing, but he's not wanting to leave. And unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. Sometimes we all forget that, and there's so many kind of dynamics in that. So I think the most important thing is that he's got out. Hopefully, got out somewhere. He's going to play games, which is straight away going to kind of get from a mental side, put him in such a better headspace, and hopefully he can go and have a good finish this season, and that might lead him to opportunities in the summer. And I think all in all, it ticks boxes for everyone involved.
Do us a favour if you haven't hit like already, that'd be great. 1,000 likes would be magic. There's 935 people with us. Good evening, Andy. Good to have you with us. If you normally listen, and anyone else who is in the same boat, probably use the last 30 minutes or so as kind of take stock on everything. It's what I put out as an audio podcast, really, and we'll look at the upcoming fixtures. I want to look at the other deals done by the other teams. A few interesting ones. The teams around us, Mark, Rashford has gone to Villa. Asensio's gone to Villa. Man City have spent an absolute ton of money, and they might sign another player for 60 million today. We're up against some teams with formidable wealth and resources, obviously. I know Newcastle haven't been able to sign someone, but we're swimming with the sharks now. What are your thoughts on what the other teams have done?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Villa have got a Champions League campaign they're still trying to progress in. So they were looking a bit thin, to be honest, with Duran gone. So I don't think they're necessarily that much stronger. It depends if they can get a tune out of Rashford, who obviously is a very talented player, but it's not easy to get him in a streak of form where he's consistent, is it? We've seen that at United. When he's hot, he's very hot and very difficult to stop. And we've seen that at the City Ground a couple of times, but those periods aren't very long and they're not sustained, and difficult to get him into that frame of mind. So it's a challenge on them. If they can get the best out of him, then yeah, that's a great signing for them. But he hasn't been playing in the Premier League regularly for a while because of whatever's happened at Old Trafford. So while that on paper looks like that strengthened him, I think it's going to take him a while to get up to speed. And even then, are they going to get his best form out of him? I imagine he's going to be someone they try and use to have impact in the Champions League rather than a regular start in the Premier League. And Asensio, will he adapt to this league? And is he someone they're going to use more in the Champions League in order to rotate options? So I don't necessarily think Villa are that much stronger for those two signings, given that Duran has gone, who was a great option for them. Spurs had to strengthen because of the injuries, but they're not near us. City, of course, have flexed massively with the money they've spent. But again, it's a question of how quickly are those signings going to bed in. We've seen Pep before. What he tends to do when he gets a new signing is he takes a season to actually bed them in. He hasn't really got that luxury if he wants to get a Champions League place. So it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly he puts them in. Obviously, the two most recent signings, he threw them straight in with the effect that, obviously the defender gave away the first goal, didn't he, against Jackson. Mamouche looks decent. So he's thrown those two straight in. Presumably with these new signings, he'll have to do the same because he hasn't got that luxury that he's had in the past. I don't know. I mean, the reason why we haven't brought players in, I guess, is not to disrupt the harmony that we've got in the dressing room, the pattern of play and the system we've got. We haven't given ourselves that problem by spending a lot of money on a new player that's got to adjust and fit in. They have. It could turn out a massive positive for City and Villa, but it's not a given by any means. We've seen with our signings that some can be a miss, and we've seen the history of Premier League signings that some can be disruptive and do more harm than good. So on the face of it, City look stronger. Villa look like they've basically made way for the Duran move, but I'm not worried by what I've seen today.
Mark points out in the chat, by the way, Emmanuel Dennis last got a cap in December 2023. So thank you for that. We'll start the roundup shortly. Just before I come to that, one more for Lewis before I go to Greg. Just on Rashford, sort of similar question to Dennis and players at a crossroads. Do you see him getting back to it at Villa? It's an interesting move. I'm not sure it'll work, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If you look at it, you probably, as football fans, we sit here and we talk about over the probably last 12 to 18 months, and if Rashford was available, how many teams would want him? But it's kind of, when you look at it now, it's sometimes it's not as we see, and unfortunately, I don't think there was as many clubs queuing up as probably maybe he and his representatives for. And if you look at the Aston Villa move, yes, okay, he's got out what he's got out of the situation at Man United, but it's probably a move where, if you ask me, I think the pressure's on him to go and perform, because I think if you go there from Manchester United, it always will be like a downward move. And now he's got to go and perform on loan. And if this doesn't go to plan, where does that leave him in the summer? I think it's sometimes you sit there and you think, okay, a lot of the circus, what's gone on at Manchester United, has been a lot of blame on terms of his performances. Well, now he's got to go and he's out of that. Now he's got to go and do what we have seen him do. But we haven't, as Mark said, we haven't seen it for a very long time. And if we have, it's not on a consistent basis. So, listen, I think it's a good move for Aston Villa. I think it's a great option for them. And I don't think that they can't really lose out of this situation, because if he goes there and gets hot, I think you've got a very, very good player there, very good player. And if it hasn't quite worked out, right, okay, they've got a loan, it's not with an obligation, which I'm sure, I think it's an option to kind of make it permanent. So again, they look at it from there, there's a bit of a win-win, but I think there's a bit of pressure on Marcus, and again, it's up to him now to kind of get out of that Man United bubble, and it's now to kind of get his head down and really go and show his ability. And hopefully from a kind of a football side, I hope he goes and does that, because yeah, there is quality in there.
Ian mentions Mateus Cunha in the chat. We'll come on to him in the end roundup, because I still think there might be some mileage in that in the summer. We'll wait and see, and it depends a lot on what we do. Few other transfer bits. João Felix, who I thought might be a sort of an interesting signing for us, is going to AC Milan. Willian, who almost signed for us, is going back to Fulham again for a second or third time, and Tyrone Malacia, the Man U fullback, is going to PSV Eindhoven, I see. Right, we'll start the roundup with Greg in 1 minute or so. Just before we do that, a word for Global Telemetrics. Well, a 35-second word, so we'll see you on the other side.
So as the sun comes up, we get an alert. Literally within 7 minutes, we are attending a stolen vehicle. Vehicle stolen overnight. Owners woke up to find his vehicle missing. But fortunately, it's paid to invest in security at Global Telemetrics. The repatriation team are on scene. Vehicle secured, and the owner's getting his vehicle back. And his tools are still in the back of the vehicle. So, again, reiterating, it pays to invest in security. Another Toyota Hilux recovered.
There you go. Thank you very much, Global Telemetrics, for their support. I'll put a link in the description, or it's already there, I should say. So thanks very much for them. 967 people watching. Do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe. Indulge me now as I do a quick intro for an audio version of this, and then we'll get into the overall picture. So hello, welcome to the kind of post-match or post-transfer window review, I should say, for Nottingham Forest, as the transfer window closes in 40 minutes as we record this, and then hopefully you listen to this. And we haven't signed anyone big, because it will require a massive edit. So Greg Mitchell, the roundup that we know, the main point is we haven't signed anyone big. James Ward-Prowse has gone back. Lewis O'Brien's gone. Emmanuel Dennis has probably gone to Blackburn. What are your thoughts on the overall situation then now as we head into the second half of the season and probably the home straight in a sense? How are you feeling about the state of play?
It's been a very good window for admin, hasn't it? I think getting some players signed up to better contracts, getting players out that needed game time and needed to be off the wage book, and signing youngsters for the future, which is the long-term plan. You speak to Reading fans who say this players is like one of the he's got big potential, hasn't he? So I've liked it. I always want a big signing. I really expected that there would be, but once the owner got all the players safely in Dubai and away from any prying eyes, I think we all knew this window was pretty much shut for Forest. It's nice to see that Twitter's still desperately wanting more. I think the first comment when I said that I was going on the stream is signing kids with zero Premier League experience. We're going to do a Spurs. Hopefully this season doesn't go all Spursy. We're going to Europe. We're not doing a Spurs. I'm absolutely convinced of that. In what league yet? I'm not sure, but I think we'll look back and say this was a good window, a steady window where we've certainly not weakened the squad one bit. We've got Danilo and Sangare back, which are like 2 new signings anyway, meaning that players have had to move over as well and get out. So I think it's been good. It's fine, but I'm looking.
We've not referenced Chris Wood signing the new contract and obviously scoring the hat-trick on Saturday and Murillo signing the new contract. I guess from my point of view, Mark, they were the top priorities. Then signing a backup striker was the next priority, which it looks like we've fallen short of. If you were giving an overall summary, are we rolling the dice a bit or are you happy?
We're rolling the dice a bit because we've been quite fortunate with injuries. And if we got an injury to Gibbs-White or Chris Wood, certainly, then we might come up short. It'd be difficult to replace them, I think, inside. You could say Anderson could fit in the 10, and he could, but Gibbs-White is showing a level at the moment that we'd definitely miss if he got injured. So, touch wood, no pun intended, that doesn't happen. So I think it's a bit of a gamble in that respect. But I also think that we had our targets and we weren't going to go. It was pretty clear that we weren't going to budge them without bidding a ridiculous sum of money. And I think that we'll go back in the summer when hopefully we got European football signed and sealed. And that can be a definite then for any player looking to possibly consider us for a move. So if we are, as I expect, I think Visser is still very much on the wanted list. And I do think that Brentford have been much more inclined to sell in the summer after he's probably hit his peak value and they assess and they've got time to replace him, which they didn't have in this window, obviously. And maybe Kuna as well, because we know it seems like there's a release clause of 60 million. Someone will pay that. Someone will pay 60 million in the summer. I was quite surprised if that's what they've set it at, because that to me seems like a realistic bar that one of the big clubs, hopefully it's us, but I certainly think there's a club that will go in the summer and give them 60 million for Kuna. So I think that's very much a case of we need to get a release clause in there to make sure we get that summer money, and Kuna gets a little bit extra in his wage packet until then. But I think he's probably going to be going in the summer when someone comes up with that money. Who knows? It could be us. So I think what the club have done is gone, no, we know our targets. We're not going to be rushed into bidding over the top. We've got a very settled squad and way of playing. Yes, we might be prone to injury and that could upset the apple cart a bit, but to this point, it hasn't been the case. So whatever the team are doing in training or the physios are doing is working. So perhaps they've got faith in that. Perhaps, with R&E, maybe what we saw in the glimpses we've seen so far, maybe there's better stuff in training to make them think that he can come through and replace Wood if we need that. So I don't know. I'm quite happy where we sit now because I think we'll do better business in the summer when we've got hopefully European football on our side.
That's a good point about the lack of injury. I've touched wood, don't want to tempt fate. Compared to when we first came up, there must be some change in the medical department or something. What do you think, going back to Cunha then, Lewis and Visser? I mean, the Cunha one's an interesting one. So he's basically signed a new contract to get a pay rise for 6 months, I think, as Mark says. Is it one that you would like to see us revisit in the summer, or more so Visser, just generally on those two?
Cunha I'm a really big fan of, and again, I think Mark's spot on. All it is it would be an agreement of just make sure that you keep us in the league. There's the prize for the summer, and we're more than happy to let you go in the summer with our best wishes, but we can't really let you go right now. Yes, we'll give you a little bit more to kind of sweeten that deal, and that's what it will be. So I'll be very surprised that if he's not gone in the summer, where that is. Two, it depends. It's a bit of a strange one. I look at the window, and I've been on here over the last few times, and I felt that we needed to strengthen. I felt that from a striker department, we just need that little bit of depth. But again, we kind of sat here at the start of the season when the window's shut, and we said the same thing, and it's turned out quite well. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully that can happen from now until the end of the season. I also think a big thing in terms of Taiwo, where he is and what was happening, I think it was probably he was a big piece in that kind of puzzle. I think if he was to go and leave the club, then it would have forced the club's hand. There was seemed like there was a bit of interest from West Ham, I think, and maybe if that had something would have happened with that, there would be kind of a different outcome to go and get that replacement. But he hasn't left the club, so I'm not sure if the club have gone, you know what, we'll just stick with the two that we've got. And like I said, hopefully we're all hopeful that kind of can see us through to the end of the season. I think if you look at the squad now in terms of the personnel and how we're performing and the confidence throughout the squad, I think other positions, I think we're very, very good. It's just that kind of top end, and the top end is the difference. It's the difference. That will kind of show us where we are come the end of the season. I just hopefully, like I say, the two boys can stay fit, they can stay firing, and they can keep doing what they're doing. But if I was to say this window, I think from an all, they signed extensions, which is always brilliant. They've kept people in the building happy, which is good. They signed a few young players, which shows in terms of recruitment how we're looking for the future. But like I said, I always think that top end, if especially where we are, if we could have maybe added to that, I think it would have been a perfect window. But listen, the club are very well experienced to this. The recruitment team have looked at it. They maybe have had their kind of players. They've had the money, what they think their value is. If that doesn't happen and it can't be on our terms, then we have to move on. And I think over the last 12 months, I think that's been a big change in terms of the football club. I felt like we've kind of set our stall out. We've offered what we think that the price is, and if that can't get the deal done, then we kind of close the door on it and we move on, and we don't really go down that thing where we're going into areas of a financial state that we don't really want to be in. So again, I think all in all, very good. I think if we'd have just got maybe a little bit more cover at that top end, I think it would have been a perfect window.
I see your super chat there, Blackfinch. We will come to it. I just want to round off the striker discussion with Greg quickly there. Nuno seems to have a lot of faith in Taiwo. I saw a tweet from Danny Taylor earlier saying he's relaxed about the situation with the two of them. I suppose we hope that this is a boost for Taiwo, that they haven't signed someone by hook or by crook, and it gives him a little bit of an extra zip. So it was sort of there against Brighton. He looked better. The sub performances appearances before that were a little bit worrying, but do we hope Taiwo can kick on and contribute from here?
Give 28,000 of us a zip when he pulled inside and looked like he was going to score. I think we all went, oh, it is still there. Fantastic. And I noticed as well when the TNT Sports guys were commentating at the end, he's doing his runs and he looked good. I don't like to get ahead of myself, but I think he could be back. So, of course he's going to be happy he's staying in Nottingham. He's getting more and more game time. He's featuring in most, if not all, games, and he's got a real chance now to get himself in that if we are in Europe, in that European selection, because he's not going to be moving to a team that's playing in Europe next year. So his only chance is to knuckle down, stay fit, and get more game time with us, so he does feature next season. And even this time last year, we wouldn't have been talking like this, that it would have been Tyler out of the two of them. So things can change quickly, and he needs a good few games, and he'll be right up there again, giving the manager headaches.
Breaking Fabrizio Romano tweet. Nottingham Forest have agreed a loan deal to sign talented winger Joel Ndala, who's a Man City player who's on loan at PSV. Buy option included worth 4 million plus 20% sell-on fee. So I will now Google Joel Ndala and find out a bit more about him, which is perfectly timed for this super chat.
Wow.
Is this it? Wow, so it was worth doing the stream. I'll get my yellow tie out.
Get your yellow tie out. Glad you think it was worth doing the stream. Right. Mark, do us a favour and give your take on the Brighton result, and also has your co-host responded to you, because he's a big Brighton fan?
He's away at the moment. He's on holiday in Cape Verde, and it was annoying because it was an early kickoff. I couldn't get to the game, so I passed my ticket on, thinking, shame to miss it, and then I miss out on another historic victory, because obviously I missed out on the 1-0 at Anfield, having been offered a ticket earlier in the season. So I've really missed out this season on two massive, landmark performances and results. So I was very gutted to not be there. Just a remarkable game, wasn't it? I couldn't really believe what I was witnessing. It just seemed like we were just pretty much unstoppable. They were just playing into our hands somewhat in terms of giving Gibbs-White and Elanga all that space. But you don't beat anyone in the Premier League 7-0 unless you're a very, very, very good side. So it was a hell of a statement to make after the performance at Bournemouth. So I was delighted. As felt humiliated. I haven't yet been able to talk to him in person about it, but don't worry, I'll take that opportunity as soon as possible when he's back in the country.
Very good, very good. Right, Joel Ndala is an 18-year-old left winger who has been on loan at PSV. I don't think he's played in the Dutch league at all. He plays for England under 19. I can't see him playing.
He looks like he's played for PSV's second team.
Yeah, it looks like he's a regular in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, potentially you look at that with the option, kind of the amount there. I don't. Potentially that's another one for the future if that happens. I don't quite see him in terms of his history so far of impacting the kind of first team squad.
It's a bit like sorry, Lewis. It's a bit like the Rodrigo Ribeiro deal, isn't it? Rightly.
Played for England at every youth level. Certainly got some potential.
Yeah, I mean, City, they do, Lewis, send young players. They do have a really good youth system, actually, and they send young players out on loan to Holland. I guess that Carlos Forbes springs to mind. I'm sure there's more. They'll send players to Germany. They'll lose players to Germany.
Yeah,
I don't know. We can't say too much about it. Is it just one for the future, a potential young talent? And if he's on loan, like the Ribeiro one, are we just going to have a look at him for 6 months and see what he does and then judge it come the summer?
Yeah, looking at it like kind of right now, we've not kind of loads of information on it. That's what it seems like. It seems like quite a small kind of transfer fee if the deal was to go ahead in terms of nowadays. Again, if you look at where he's been playing, he doesn't look like he's played for the first team at PSV. So again, hopefully that's one again for the future, and it looks like the club are now looking to do that. Again, we have to look where we are and turn it into the kind of this top Premier League team, but also off the pitch in terms of recruitment, getting players in for the future. Like you just spoke about what Man City have done for years now in terms of getting these young kids and maybe then start getting them out to other clubs. So, but listen, you never know. But kind of on the just looking at it there, it doesn't seem like it's a first team squad signing impact. That's for sure.
We've also signed, as we were discussing earlier in the show, Mark, as well, Tyler Bindon From Reading, he's gone back to Reading on loan for the rest of the season. We were linked with Lewis Carroll, 16-year-old defender from Aberdeen. That one might happen as well. And a winger from Plymouth, whose name I forget. I guess this all fits into that part of the plan. And it's nice to get some cover as well. I thought we need an extra winger. It feels like a body more than anything, but it's forward-thinking recruitment at the very least, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Ndala, he represented England at under-17s and scored 3 goals, got 2 assists in the tournament, and apparently was like standout performer in that tournament. So he's obviously got pedigree. Obviously pacey, tricky, apparently, according to, and there's a YouTube video. It says he's the next big thing. So I'll just take the YouTube video. Really, that's what we tend to do, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, who knows? He looks like he could be a prospect and probably worth the punt at this stage if there's a talent there. Like you say, City have let a lot of good players go because they can't give them the level of football that perhaps their talent requires. So maybe he's another one of those. But yeah, I mean, I think the Reading defender does look like a prospect from everything we've seen, and the reaction of the Reading fans. That's always a good barometer, isn't it? For when you sign a young player, is the kind of reputation they come with from the supporters who've seen them week in, week out. And he looks like that in League One, he's a real standout defender at the age of 20 and has got all the raw material to be a top-class centre-back, according to what they're saying. So definitely a prospect. Probably will go, obviously, his year at Reading, finish the season there, probably go out on loan next season as well. But I like those kind of signings. If we're in the position where we can make those kind of signings, then we're in a good position because normally it's like trying to fill gaps in the squad. We're not in that situation. We're in that situation where we can perhaps make a few transfers that are a bit more speculative, and that's what perhaps these are.
Yeah, I think so. Dipping into the chat, he could play off the bench against Exeter. He doesn't take up a place in the squad as well, and we do have a couple of spaces, sort of irrelevant because I don't think we'll sign anyone on frees. But yeah, it's worth pointing out, and obviously, as pointed out here, you can. If you're going to sign anyone from any club, Man City's a pretty good one, so it's worth checking out certainly. Right, we might come back to transfers. Let's talk about the weekend a little bit, Greg. It went perfectly. Basically, Chelsea won tonight, but Newcastle lost, Bournemouth lost, Villa lost, Arsenal won, which I think is a great result. Even you throw in our result as well, obviously. Leicester losing, Derby losing, nice bonus. Southampton winning. It's sort of the dream weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty damn good, wasn't it? I was just laughing about Mark saying about the gauge of fans is a sign about how good a player is, because I unfortunately looked at the Blackburn, the tweets under the Blackburn thing of signing Dennis, which were a bit cruel. But yeah, back to the weekend. It was incredible. I'd some friends who'd come down from Scotland who brought their daughters for their first game, and you remember, like, I remember the Sheffield Wednesday game from years gone by. I remember it in the house where I was listening to all the goals going in, and it's going to be one of those results in 20 years where you look back and say, "Oh, I remember where I was for that," or if you're in the Gedlin Arms, or if you're at the City Ground. It was incredible, and we thoroughly deserved it. Talk about like a response as well, because was it Aina kept saying, what was it, GBJ? I was thinking, what's that? And then when you watch Match Day Pass, they're talking about Get Back Game or something, and they just all wanted it. It was just fantastic. Now to have the long break, and hopefully a lot of these first team players not even travelling to Exeter. I know it's a bit of a big club mentality and not the nicest thing sometimes, but I'd love to see a similar side that went out and won the last round, because it is important that these players get a rest. We saw at Bournemouth just how tired they all looked, and the difference really this weekend. So it was a perfect result, perfect for so many reasons, and one that got us on Match of the Day for the right reasons. First off,
I was going to say, you're not going to remember you in the Gedlin Arms because you've had 15 pints, haven't you? So.
Yeah. Oh, God,
Obviously, not as good a venue as the Nav, of course.
Yeah, Nav was superb after the game. They had these two DJs on, and you walked in and you could hear it booming already. And where I sit in Lower Bridgeford, you get out quite quick, so you're in there. I thought, God, it's going off, and they're on for about 2 or 3 hours. They got it perfect. It was brilliant, dead good.
How can you explain that turnaround, Lewis, from the 5-0 to the 7-0? I know that the opposition's a big factor in it. I think the way Bournemouth played versus the way Brighton played, but how much credit do we have to give to Nuno and obviously the players as well? For I don't think I've seen a transformation like that. How can we explain it all?
Yeah, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't. There's if we, like I say, a lot of us watched the game at Bournemouth and seen kind of the areas that we just seemed we seemed quite off it in so many areas, and listen, we got punished on a day. And if you look at it this week, if you look at Brighton, they seemed off it and we punished them, and it was just one of those games. Sometimes you have that good start and you look at the first goal, how that kind of goes in, sets you on that kind of good tone. Because if you look at it from after last week and going into that game, potentially was that the kind of best start that we could have hoped for in terms of just settling everyone down and changing the kind of narrative straight away. If we'd have gone 1-0 down or been kind of edgy first half, would it have been a different outcome? So listen, I think if you look at the Bournemouth game, a lot of things went against us. But again, I think we didn't help ourselves with that. But again, you look at the Brighton game and we scored goals at really good times, which was a big thing in terms of the half time coming out the second half, and we've had them second halves and you're hoping for, right, okay, you don't really want them to get back in it. They get one goal and it kind of turns a little bit, and we kind of just we kept our foot down really, and we kept on going, and it felt like every time we was attacked we was going to score another goal at one point. So listen, sometimes you can't really put your finger on it, how it can be such a difference from one week to the other, but that's football. That's why we all love it. That's why we're all so kind of obsessed with it, and hopefully now we can just kind of settle down. As Greg said, we've got a break now. The boys are away, team bonding, being together after a result like that, it is going to be even better. And we just kind of come back now for the last running and make sure just continue to go about our work that we have done for the majority of the season.
How are you feeling about that running then, Mark? Because I think you said if we are in the Champions League places after City, you back us to do it. I feel like we're going to be probably, aren't we? So how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, if we can cling on to top 5 at that point, I think our run-in suggests that we haven't got injuries at that point as well. Then I think we'll do it. I mean, the City game's really intriguing. Obviously, the Arsenal one is as well. But I mean, if we can avoid defeat in both those games, maybe get draws. I mean, arguably we could beat City the way they're defending. Then we'll be in a very good position. Chelsea and Newcastle, I mean, they've all got each other to play as well, so they'll take points off each other. And most of the teams around us have got to come to the City ground, as we've said, so including Chelsea on the final day. So yeah, I think we've got every chance if we're still in that position come game. I think it was at 4 or 5 games time. Then I think we'll make it. We've got to start, almost renewing the passports at that point. I think because I think we will do it. So yeah, it's really about these next 4 games. Newcastle away is going to be very tough, although they got found out the other day, so they're definitely beatable. Fulham went there and got the points. Obviously, it's Fulham away next, which is tough. But I think we can go there and get something. I just think the way we played against Brighton, also the system against Brighton, it was a new setup, wasn't it? The role that Elanga played in particular excited me because it meant that we have another system, if you like. It's like a 5-3-2 with Elanga wandering, getting close to Wood and Gibbs-White joining the attack. It was a lot of fluid movement that I haven't seen in some of the other systems. That was Nuno kind of rolling out another approach, which I think could really work against some teams, certainly away from home. So that maybe was behind the fact that we don't feel we have to strengthen another striker, the fact we can use Elanga in that role off Wood as well when we need to. It certainly caused Brighton trouble, and it'd be interesting to see if he rolls that out again at Fulham.
Just on those games, Greg, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but Arsenal City in particular were the two teams we probably showed quite a lot of respect to. Do you want us to see us be a lot more front foot in those games, like Arsenal were against City in the second half on Saturday? Do we kind of reverse our approach a little bit and get at them?
At home, we're a different beast at home against the bigger teams. So I wouldn't say necessarily get at them. I think there'll be a more familiar way that we play that we have done for the majority of games. That 18 games we've gone a goal up now in the league, which is God knows the last time we've done anything like that. So I think they'll be showing us a lot more respect, knowing we don't need the ball to beat them as well, and that scares Man City because they're the best at it doing that, aren't they? So I'm really excited for those games. I'm excited for the next couple of away games as well. Fulham and Newcastle, like we're talking about, just brilliant opportunities. Point away, 3 points at home, whatever. I think we can just keep picking them up and chipping away. And we know what our target is. We know that top 4 or 5 is where we all want to be, and we've got a realistic chance of it. So it's going to be a huge ending to this season where we all thought it was going to be one of those where we did a bit of a Palace or just kind of forgotten about and the season peters out. But it's more exciting than it ever has been up here, and I can't wait.
Father's update for Matt. He went to the ground. He had the link. Technology failed him, or he failed technology, one or the other. But no Fathers.
Was he outside the ground?
He went to the ground like he did in the summer. It's a bit colder. He was going to give us. I don't know what he was going to give us. The lights were off by now. The lights were on when he intended to go.
I was excited for that.
Sorry, Greg. I know, a disappointment. Are you a Champions League believer, Lewis, as we start to wind down? Is it going to happen?
Why not? We've like I say, we deserve to be in this position. We've got every chance as the other team around us. I looked at it probably 3 weeks ago and I felt that I was worried about Newcastle. Still am. I think they're out the kind of chasing pack. I just feel that, yes, I know they had a bad result the weekend, but I just feel that they have a little bit about it. I look at Man City and we spoke about the money that's spent, but I just feel like there's so much going on with them. I feel like they've lost that kind of aura about them. When do you see a Man City team? I know you look at Arsenal doing well, but you don't see a Man City team getting beat like that. And I just feel like they're trying to find themselves again. So could we potentially catch them at the right time? So I look at it, and if we look at Chelsea, yes, they won again tonight, but they're a bit up and down. So if you think about the position that we're in, if you think about the chasing pack, I'm quite confident, quite comfortable where we are. Again, every single game now will be important. We just got to take it game by game. We've got, say, Fulham away, never easy. Good team, good manager, play the right way, and then you go up to, like say, you look at Newcastle, and I think if you go there and get a result, if you go there and get a win, I think that not only kind of again puts in a great position, but I just think it really kind of rubber stamps in terms of the other teams that we're really here to stay. So again, as Greg said, it's really, really good times to, I think to yourself, there's always kind of pressure and looking at it, are we going to make it? But let's just enjoy it. Let's really enjoy it. Let's enjoy being in this position. Let's enjoy the football world talking about this great football club, how they are. And let's just see where we are come the end of it. And wherever we are, I think it will be a fantastic season, and everyone's tried to do the best who's connected to the football club.
I've got a graphic WT analysis done one on Twitter. This is Ndala's stats in the Dutch second division, PSV's B team. I just think he looks like one for the future. You can't judge a signing too much, but I wouldn't necessarily expect a lot from him straight away. See how he does at Exeter, I think. But I don't see him threatening Hudson-Odoi and Elanga initially. But I do like the forward-thinking recruitment that we've discussed a lot in this show. What have I done there? Can't get through a whole 2-hour show without something else. Just checking in on the other transfers around the league. It's interesting how quiet it is in general, not just us. A few minor updates. One quite a big one. Matthias Tell is going to Spurs, which we haven't touched on. That one looks like it's done. Chelsea is signing someone called Matthias Amugu from St Etienne, I think. And Bournemouth, who are obviously very good in the transfer window, have signed a player from Lorient for 12 million called Eli Junior Krupi. But he'll stay there until June. A lot of clubs, Mark, are doing these kind of deals that we're dipping into. Young talent, send them out on loan. Great PSR deals, I guess. It's an interesting theme, isn't it?
Yeah, Brighton obviously paved the way with that, didn't they? With the South America market, they used that very well. It came to fruition several times. Did that with Matoma as well, I guess. So it's kind of like, and Bournemouth's recruitment has been first class, as we've seen. So yeah, we're in that market though now. You know, we've done it with Murillo, with Danilo as well. So you know, we're in that realm where we're signing players, 10 million plus, 10 to 15 million, that can be prospects that we can make profit on. We're not. Maybe we are going to be in the 60 million plus market in the summer. Maybe we are going to be in the hat for Kuna. But up until now, we've been in that market where the top clubs don't look at those players, and therefore we've had the chance to pick from it, and we've picked very well, as we've seen. So maybe we will go up a bracket if we get Champions League. Maybe our limit will go high, and we can go in for someone like Kuna in the summer. But if not, I've got faith in our recruitment team that will carry on finding, gems in the 15 to 25 million mark that other clubs aren't looking at, or the top clubs aren't looking at. So it's a good model to follow. It's done other clubs well, and I'm very happy that we're now doing that. We did what was necessary to stay in the Premier League. We don't have to do that anymore. Hopefully, like Lewis says, this is a great season. I think what's important for this is that even if we don't get Europe, that it lays a foundation so that we don't have to fight relegation again for many, many, many years, if at all. Right? This is the start of us being an established Premier League club. If we get that from this season, that will be a huge, huge thing.
Is the other aim, Greg, as well, coming up? Callum Hudson-Odoi's contract, Ola Aina's contract, Morgan Gibbs-White's contract. Probably Hudson-Odoi above and Aina, even above Gibbs-White in the sense that they expire sooner. Is that the next thing we've got to look at?
I bet they're doing it already. I bet their agents are all over wanting more money. Of course they are doing the right thing for them. If so, we need to secure these players. We've built. It feels like we've built a team and a squad for the first time in years that feel like they could stick together for a few seasons, which is absolutely key to any run that's going to get you any kind of trophies or runs in Europe or semi-finals, anything like that. It's about the team sticking together for 4 or 5 years. And we're building that. We're getting players that want to play together. Of course, it's just such an important thing to do. You keep seeing people like retweeting tweets from 2022 or 2017 to make you think it's a... And you remember some of these players that had a few months here and signed 4 or 5 on deadline day who can't remember half the names. And we've gone past that now. And I just think we're doing the right things behind the scenes, and I'd be absolutely shocked if at least a couple of them haven't got new contracts by the end of the season. I've just had some... who's the young lad we've signed? Lewis Carroll.
Ndala. Oh, has he gone as well? The Aberdeen
Lewis
player?
Carroll? What have you had? What's this hot tip?
Well, have we signed him? Has that already gone through?
Is this some contact in the Spa, Greg?
A friend up north.
Okay.
One of them's played against him, says he's a great player. Someone from Aberdeen, good young kid as well, good player. That's from someone who knows people in the youth setup. So it seems like we're signing the right players, aren't we, for the future?
He was wanted by Arsenal and Chelsea. He was linked with them strongly. So, yeah, we'll see. Scotland is producing a lot of, or we're picking off a lot of young talent. We being English.
There's a reason for that, isn't there? Something's
Brexit.
changed. Why is that then? What?
don't need work permits, do you? I think of
Oh,
Scottish young
right,
talent.
yeah.
So there you go. We don't want to get into Brexit benefits on here, do we?
God, you've said it twice now. Stop saying it.
Ndala, just a quick stat here from the routine analysis: 13 goals, 7 assisted in 20 games in the under-18 Premier League. That was a couple of years ago, but good information to have, certainly. I've been beavering away in the background while these lads have kindly been talking with their thoughts. Thanks very much to Danscape with the updated European Dream Tracker. On course, the Champions League still. Green dot is where we are, and we're above the yellow line, which is getting into the Champions League historically. And obviously, we're helped by 5th place qualifying as well. I saw Adam Armstrong is going on loan to West Brom, which is interesting. Yeah, okay. He was quite a regular. I think it's maybe, I don't know, West Brom got money?
That's strange, because I also saw tonight that Flynn Downs could be leaving Southampton. And I think, like, aren't they key players? Are they already here in the books here? That sounds like it, doesn't it?
You'd want them for the Champions League. They've got a couple of decent players that we
Championship.
Championship, sorry, in my mind. Yeah, obviously Tyler Dibbling, but
I expected him to go.
Yeah, they've got a bit of young talent, certainly. Right,
I can't wait to see what you've got planned for the window slamming shut, like the big graphic. Or
he'll have a glitzy graphic and everything you'll have ready.
Well, now you said that, I feel like I had to have something, but no, I've got nothing. A lot of people mentioned Jonathan David. I think he'll go in the summer. There's lots of talent. I think it's been a really quiet window. Liam Delap, Pat mentions as well. I think he'll go somewhere in the summer. We mentioned Tyler Dibbling. It's been a very quiet window. It's 11 o'clock. It's shut. I've got no graphic at all. We haven't had confirmation of Emmanuel Dennis going to Blackburn as we sit here, but I suspect that might come in over them in the morning. Right. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add as we sum up Mark Sutherns?
I just want to say on the Gibbs-White thing, I heard him say that he's never been happier, and I kind of saw that as surely we're seizing on that, aren't we? We saw the scenes post-match with his 100 appearances for Forest. We saw the camaraderie in the dressing room, and he just feels so integral. And if we're going to attract players in the summer, it's a massive statement to get someone like Gibbs-White signing a new contract, because players will look at that from outside looking in going, Gibbs-White's going to be there. If Murillo's going to be there, Anderson only signed this season. The spine of the team looks so strong. So getting Gibbs-White on a new contract before the end of the season would be a big priority for me, because I think that then sets us up to attract the calibre of player that we need to, if we're going to be able to make a decent shout of European football if we get it. So for me, that's top of my list between now and the end of the season. Get Morgan signed up with a new deal. And what will his release clause be? More than 60 million.
Very good. Very good. Greg, anything you want to add before we go?
The latest Overlap episode is out tomorrow morning. Little plug. It's about tactics, and there's quite a positive revelation at the end of it about Forest, which might.
Who's on it?
It's the guy who does the Overlap tactics. He's really good. I can't remember his name. Young lad. But yeah, it's just Carra and Scholes and the rest of them. So
it's Neville. Has Neville finished?
I wouldn't. No comment.
You got some dirt on Gary Neville.
No, it's his production. It's his production, isn't it? It's his baby Overlap. But no, Scholes is great. Really good. It's great to be in his presence, just like it is with Lewis, two of the great midfielders of my era watching football.
Is it James Alcott does? Is it James Alcott does the tactics on Overlap? Is it?
I think that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He's really good. Yeah. He does the stuff for the Premier League. It is him. Yeah, that's right. The breakdown for the Premier League. Yeah.
Very good.
Very complimentary. Good. That's all I'll say.
Lewis, any final thoughts? Any final words before we go?
No, nothing from me.
Very good. Very good.
There was a question. There was a question in the comments. Did you see it? Who's the better free kick take, James Ward-Prowse or Lewis McGugan? I like that one. For Forest, we can definitely say it was Lewis.
Ward-Prowse hasn't scored one like that one against Ipswich. No way. He scored some good ones. Not as good as Lewis's, though, was it?
He's not scored one for ages, has he?
No.
Actually.
No, it was a shame. When we signed him, I watched all the free kicks he scored for Southampton, thinking, just one of those, just to see one of those would be amazing in the flesh. But never wasn't to be, was it?
No.
Still not as good as Lewis's, though. Even his best, I don't think. And I'm not just saying that, Lewis, but it's true, isn't it? Let's face it.
He just, I could tell he dislikes it when we're all complimentary. Sorry.
He's too modest. He's too modest when we're talking like this. Right, it is past 11. There is the potential for deals to go through still. Obviously, Joel and Ndala, who we've discussed, Emmanuel Dennis, they're the main ones. Other young players like Lewis Carroll, who we mentioned, but we did lose James Ward-Prowse. We did lose Lewis O'Brien. We did sign Tyler Bindon. I can't remember if that's his name, but he does sound promising. So happy with that. That's definitely done business. And we know what the squad is for the rest of the season now. I don't think we'll sign any free transfers. So it's all over. We look forward to the rest of the season ahead. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider channel membership or Patreon, or just lovely 5-star reviews. If you've been with us for the whole 2 hours, and at least 800 people have been the whole way through, almost 1,000 for a lot of it, then thank you very much for your company. A couple of quick shout outs. Happy birthday to my brother, 40th birthday yesterday. Promised I'd ring him all day, never did it. So total failure. So this is my medium of not even making up to you. I don't know if he even listens, but I'll feel better about myself.
Your mum does.
Yeah. So yeah, she does. Yeah, I haven't seen her in the comments for a while. But shout out to him. And we shall be back tomorrow with David Jackson from Radio Nottingham, Tom Colomossi from the Daily Mail. We'll review the transfer window and take stock and look ahead to the weeks ahead. And then we'll have Jason Pine, the New Zealand football commentator, will tell us more about the player that we have signed from Reading. Match preview on Thursday or Friday because it's very early. And then we'll have a chat with Brian Laws as well. So there's lots coming up to keep you entertained before the Exeter game on Tuesday. Mark Sutherns, thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lewis. Thanks, Greg.
Greg Mitchell, thank you very much.
Cheers. My alarm's at 5:02, so I'm going to try and get some sleep after.
Why did you ask to do the second hour?
I didn't ask, Matt. You begged.
I remember you saying, "Can I do the second hour?" And I can't remember why.
I thought I'd be busy, but I wasn't.
Why didn't you swap?
Because you made it very clear earlier who was doing what hours.
I just didn't want everyone to turn up at 10
He's
o'clock.
such a cruel taskmaster, isn't he, Greg? It's right.
I know.
Special thank you to Lewis McGugan, who has been with us for approaching 2 hours. Lewis, thank you very much.
No problem at all. Anytime.
Indeed, you're a hero. You're a hero. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening, what's left of it. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.